guys. Welcome everybody out to Laidlaw Harley-Davidson podcast number 5. We are very happy to have a really awesome guest today, Jeff Holt with V-Twin Visionary. Huge guy in the industry, been in the industry a long time. And kind of when I think of the custom V-Twin scene, I kind of think of Jeff as kind of one of those faces that immediately pops up in my head as just kind of a staple in the industry for a long time. So we have Keith here as well.
Yeah,
so yeah, Jeff, thanks for coming.
Thanks guys. Seriously, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of how Jeff has evolved over the years from starting off really in the bicycle world, like the BMX bicycle world, right? And so, yeah, why don't we start there? Why don't you talk a little bit about like how you kind of evolved into what you do today with the V-Twin world?
Sure. I mean, it really started when I was young. My dad was in a motorcycle accident and he's paralyzed from the waist down. So I was completely and totally never allowed to ride any sort of motorcycle. That kind of was like a real bummer for me because you would see your dad, you look up to your dad. I mean, I do understand, debilitating injury, but, man, motorcycles are as cool as it gets. So, the second best thing was riding BMX, being a kid in the late 70s, early 80s. And it took over my life. I'd race BMX, 3 to 4 times a week for years. I got a job at bike shop sweeping floors at 12 years old, ended up working at that bike shop till I graduated high school, then moved on to another bike shop, co-owned that bicycle shop. And during that time, I bought a Harley. My parents didn't know about it. I actually had a Vespa first, and it was on the side of my house that nobody could get to, and I would push it out the back door, down the alley, and then ride the thing around the neighborhood a bunch.
Yeah. Nice.
And then finally, I ended up getting a 76 FLH and started working on it at a buddy's house whose dad was a biker guy. And then at that
AMF
time,
bike, huh?
Yeah, AMF bike. So,
Good for you.
It was definitely
When you
a joy to work on.
Yeah.
Learned a lot on that one.
Yeah, for real. And so from there, I ended up moving up to Oregon just on a whim. I met a girl, and she was going to go to design school up there. And I was like, yeah, I'll go. I'm born and raised in SoCal, Anaheim kid. And I moved up there with the bike. It was the only transportation I had for a year. I ended up becoming a sales rep in that area because none of the bicycle shops wanted to give me a job at the time. So I was like, I just started calling people in the industry who I knew and became a sales rep and then a marketing company as well. So I did all that. And Courtney Hallowell, who was the guy that was the head of Hot Bike Magazine and Baggers that just came out that year, and Street Chopper, was like, hey man, I see your press releases, because his roommate was a BMX kid. I see your press releases. I know you know how to take photos. You can write legibly, but you know how to work on Harleys. You tinker with them. You build your own stuff. He's like, that's what we need. And I was like, man, I don't think so. It sounds kind of like too much work. So I blew it off.
Yeah.
And then moved back down here. Got my wife at the time pregnant, and we had a baby. And I was like, man, I need some total stability in my life. Like being this freelance guy and not having insurance and all this stuff. And that job was filled, and then it wasn't again. So Courtney I saw him just kind of, I don't know where I saw him, and he was like, hey man, that job's open if you want it. And I was like, sure, I'll take it. Took a look at the insurance. It was super good. And I was like, oh, perfect.
Nice. That
That was in like October. And then, of course, open enrollment comes around like 2 months later, and the insurance was a different insurance. It was completely horrible. But by that time, I was hooked, man. Like, because magazines were huge then, as you guys know.
What time period was this? What year was this?
That would have been like before the whole crash. So it would have been 06, 07.
Okay. Yeah. Still when the internet was still kind of in its infancy a little bit.
Just websites, like no social media.
Simple websites.
There you go. Before Facebook and Instagram and all that
we
stuff.
didn't do any of that stuff then. I mean, we didn't do much of that stuff until the end. That's why there's no magazines, but
right.
Very cool. That's where I got kind of like first introduced to Jeff. I didn't really know him at all But I read Hot Bike all the time. Always saw articles and his name on stuff and his pictures in there and stuff. And always had the coolest bikes. I mean, it was like, man, these are really cool bikes. At the time I was here, just came back, but I was in Nevada before that, and we were building high-performance motorcycles, and that's what he was doing all the time and showing off. And it was just a really cool thing. And then I didn't meet him until like last year. He actually strode in, and I was like, I recognized him right away. Oh, that's Jeff Holt. So
that's funny, man. Like I was like, for me, like, it was always like I always had a couple Harleys, even when I was doing that, you know, like one to ride, like most guys that are into it, one to ride, one to work on.
Yeah.
And then maybe a basket case in the garage that nobody knows about. And for me, like, it was just that way. And then when I became active as even an associate editor of the magazine, when I was just writing, you know, put it together features or new product features, like I already had like 4 bikes. And the other editors, some of them didn't even have bikes. They just had loaner bikes from Harley or whatever. Like some guys would have like Kawasaki and stuff. And I always thought, man, like you're not really living that life.
No. Yeah.
Like, you know, this is just your job for you. You're going to go home and do whatever you do, play video games or you know, groom your dog or whatever.
You could tell the difference too. Like the articles you write and stuff like that, they come from a spot where like, you know what you're talking about. You could tell, you know, I was reading the magazine back then, and you'd see a lot of those guys writing stuff, and you're like, man, the connection's not there, because obviously they didn't like ride. They just got the product, put it on, and didn't really think much like you do into like how it's going to work for the average rider and what's it really good for. You know, it was just more of like, hey, here's an informational piece on this thing that I did.
Yeah, and for me, you know, at the dawn ages of writing, you know, I even took online college courses for learning how to write correctly. I didn't go to college. You know, I barely got out of high school. I was born a dyslexic kid, like really bad dyslexic kid, and they didn't diagnose it. I'm left-handed, as you can tell, because I'm talking with my left hand. But they didn't diagnose it until I was in the 7th grade. I was just lazy and not motivated at schoolwork, and then I had to go to therapy for that. And it's I mean, I tell the story a lot, but it's kind of funny that, you know, literally when you tell me I can't do something, I make it my life's work to do so. Like being able to write, like I couldn't write as a kid. I couldn't ride. I was banned to ride a motorcycle as a kid, and then now this is exactly what I do for a living.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the craziest thing ever.
So tell you can't do something, then you're
if we ever need Jeff to do a project, just tell him, hey, you can't do this.
Yeah, you don't worry about it. But I mean, for me, I always wrote for the audience. Like a lot of these guys would write down to the audience, like, oh, I have a degree in whatever, you know, literature, and now I'm working at this lowly motorcycle magazine writing to these scumbags. And I was like, look, man, like these are my people. Like I grew up a scumbag punk rock kid, you know, running the streets on a skateboard and a BMX bike. Like, this is my audience. These are my people. Like I'm talking to them, you know, not down. I'm talking directly to them. And I want to make sure that with all the writings that I did back then, that everybody could understand it. Like if you bought a Harley that day, you could at least understand. Like I didn't use abbreviations. I didn't use, you know, I didn't say, oh, you know, shovelhead. I would say, you know, 1976 shovelhead FLH, so a guy could understand that.
Sure.
And for me, that made more sense to me than trying to be a cool guy or trying to do all that other stuff.
Flex your knowledge on people and stuff.
Yeah, it just wasn't my deal, man. You know, like I just thought that it should be accessible to everybody. Of every background and education.
I remember reading that stuff, and it came through like it did. That comes through to the reader too. Like you feel that, like, oh, this guy really going out of his way to tell everyone what's going on. I can understand this. I'm new to this, or you know, I've been doing it for a while, but I've never touched one of those bikes. But yeah, it was you could definitely feel that, you know, dynamic. It was cool.
And I definitely made sure that was always, even when I was an associate editor, all the way up to when I was the editor in chief and then brand manager, as they call it now, because you know. Now you're running you were running a paper book, you were running a website, and you were running social media all at the same time. Sure. And it was funny because when I started working at Hot Bike, there was 5 editors on staff. When I departed ways with them, there was 2 editors on staff, and we were doing 4 times the work.
Sure.
I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that your skill set that you talk about, you know, even when you go back to your bicycle days with the media and the writing and everything, it's interesting to me because I look at people that are successful in their industry, and typically they do stuff for a very long time. the stuff you do today with V-Twin Visionary, a lot of the media stuff, a lot of the writing that you do is stuff that you've been doing for forever at this point, right? And I think another thing that you said that was really cool is that, this is something that I live by as well when I try to like hire my sales guys and we have people that work here. I like to look for guys that have bikes and that actually ride, because the experience that you get from actually doing it is you can't be replaced. I don't care what kind of book education you have. So that's really cool that kind of.
I mean, it really comes through in how you convey yourself to another person and how you convey what you want, whether it's a sale or what parts they should use on their bikes or anything. I mean, it's definitely, it just being genuine and knowing what you're talking about. I mean, how many times have you guys are like me, man. If you want to buy a car, you go on the internet and you know everything about that car.
Yeah.
Right.
Then you walk on a car lot and the guy looks at you like dumbfounded because you want to know, 3 or 4 things about the car that you find exactly like you want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It has to have this interior. It has to have this. Like we don't buy white pickup trucks and whatever. Oh yeah. Okay. Whatever package that is, I'll buy it and walk away. Like a lot of people do. Like,
yeah,
we're geeks, man. Like,
no, I get, and that you can tell motorcycle guys too. Like one thing, like Matt does it too, and I know I do it. And I noticed it about you right away when we walked like in the back of the shop. The motorcycle becomes the focus of everyone's.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like you're looking around and the motorcycle's in the room. You're like, oh, and that's how you know motorcycle guys like.
Oh yeah,
motorcycle takes center stage wherever you're at. I
mean, when I was
crazy.
the first time I ever walked back here, there was that bad boy back there that had like 2,500 original miles on it, and I was like, oh my god, like that bike, I got goosebumps right now. Seriously, like that bike is one of the holy grail bikes for me.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't even know what that bike was, and Harley doesn't do springers anymore, so like that bike. To see a bike that pristine and perfect, like that should be in the museum.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You bring up Springer. I've been trying to talk to everybody that listen to me that Harley-Davidson should bring Springers back. Can you back me up on that?
Do you imagine a mono shock Springer Softail? How awesome cool it would be.
Oh, thank you.
You take the worst handling front suspension and you put the best handling frame to it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I understand. And I mean, I've been trying to just buy a Softail Springer that's in good shape lately.
They're hard to find now.
Super hard to find.
Yeah, and then when we get them in pre-owned, they're gone. Like literally like that. They put them on the website, and as soon as it's up, the very next day someone's
they would
here.
Kill it. I mean, a Milwaukee-Eight powered Springer Softail. Oh my god!
You heard it here first, Harley. Get on it.
It makes me smile just hearing you say that. It gives me legitimacy to hear a guy like you say that. 'Cause, they need to bring the Springer back. It just appeals to so many people. The guys that love the classic look of the Springer. Yeah. And, here with the whole Vikla craze and just like a lot of the Hispanic population love that style. I love the style. It's just a cool look. So
I agree entirely, man. And, we're just such geeks. Like it starts at an early age, like I started geeking out on bicycles when a lot of people would be geeking out on models or car models or this or that or the other. And then it became motorcycles and then music. And then, like, I don't know, like it's full nerd stuff.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's full awesome stuff.
Now cars and,
It's nice to be able to nerd out on something as cool as Harley-Davidson, though, because they don't call you a nerd, but you know deep down
they call you an
nerd.
aficionado.
There you go. There you go.
He still does bikes. I mean, he's got some like vintage BMX bikes and stuff. I see you
it's a sickness, man. It's
Do you
a
ride
sickness.
still? Do you ride like track and stuff?
Yeah, I don't really ride too much. Like Whittier Narrows, every once in a while, I'll go out and ride.
Cool.
I'm on the bad side of 40 now, so it hurts when I crash.
Right.
I didn't start racing BMX until I was like 36 or 37, and I did it for like 5 years. I've been talking crap about getting back into it, but Jamie down there and Matt was riding with us for a while at the same track. I got into street riding a little bit with those 4130 guys in LA going on their crazy
the cruiser
trips
rides and
around
stuff,
LA.
Man. It's super
wild.
cool to see that, man.
It's a cool scene.
I still have my bikes. I got to get back into that.
It's a lot of fun, man. I have a relationship with SE, and I have a relationship with the guys at City Grounds, and they take good care of me whenever my need arises for some cool bikes. And then, the vintage stuff, I started off, because I was broke when I was a kid, so I couldn't afford anything good. I'll tell you guys the truth about how I started working in a bike shop. Me and my buddy stole a BMX bike from this kid who he had the raddest bike, and he would never put it inside. He always treated it like, pardon my French. And like finally one day we're like, man, we're going to get that bike.
Yeah. You don't deserve it,
12-year-old kid, you know? And I was like, but we couldn't take the cranks off. We didn't have crank tools, 3-piece crank. So I took it to the bike shop and I asked the manager there, Steve, I was like, hey, can you take these cranks off? And he's like, yeah, man, just leave it here for a day. I'll take the cranks off. And then he called the kid's mom because he knew the kid's mom. And then he's like, yeah, the cranks are off. So I walk in after school and the mom's there and the kid's there and the mom's just pissed. And, you know, she's like, call the cops, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, hold on, lady. What about if he gets all the bike's parts together and puts it together and then I have him work off the rest, yada, yada, at the bike. Yeah. That's exactly how it happened.
Interesting.
There you go.
That's a cool story.
So, like, you know, that was the gateway into me being an honest person, because that was complete instant karma right there.
Yeah.
You know, the only other time, you know, stealing candy when you're a kid, but then out of the liquor store, but then like my first real caper just was bogus.
Got busted right away.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, you learned a life lesson early and it set you off in a career path that puts you where you are today.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty crazy,
cool.
you know, and to be able to do what I'm doing, I'm super fortunate even today, you know.
That's cool.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the COVID crossing. You know, we've been following you on Instagram and all that stuff. So tell us about that.
You know, once I started, you know, once I parted ways with Hot Bike, you know, actually July 4th will be the 2-year anniversary when I started V2 and Visionary. It seems like everybody's like, it seems like it's been around for so long now. I'm like,
it's kind of an iconic name. That's why I think it's a little timeless.
Crazy. Yeah. Like, I was going to call it another name, and it would have totally went a different way than the V2 and Visionary. And then my partner Dave Rowe, I worked with at Hot Bike, he was like the best sales guy ever. He's not high pressure. He's super good. He's very organized. He's everything I'm not. So together we're a whole person.
That's
like
awesome.
I already would have bought like a Porsche Panamera and a boat with the money and had nothing now.
Yeah.
I got to be living in my parents' house, you know. He's like, okay, you get this much pay and we're doing this, and he handles the taxes and the books and all that stuff. So like when we were getting all this together, it worked really well that way. But like I started zero. Like I got fired over the phone. They thought I was in the office and I didn't. I wasn't in the office. So I had to go in the office, give all my stuff, my iPhone, my computers, my cameras, like all the stuff. Like after I worked for them for 11 years, like one day they're like, oh, you're done. That's brutal. I mean, it's the way it happens, you know? And even my immediate boss was like, I can't believe they're doing this. You're the face of the brand. Like, I don't know why. He's like, can you please come back next week? I'll discuss it with and it just didn't work. Bottom line is for my position and, you know, the amount of money I was making, apparently I made 1/3 of what Hot Bike brought in a year.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh man, like that's not sustainable.
Right.
You know, in any business. I mean, no hard feelings, whatever. So when I was like, man, I got to find a job. Like I'm just sitting there staring at my girlfriend, Maggie. And I was like, I knew it was going to happen. Like it was coming. I didn't know it was going to be that abrupt.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and she's like, take a month off. Don't do anything. Think about what you want to do with your life. Like, you're not getting any younger. What do you want to do? Because, I mean, the next day I started getting phone calls from companies. Hey, come be our marketing guy. Hey, come do this. Come do that. And I was like, I'm getting a lot of good job offers, but it's a job where I'm going to have to go in, tell people I don't personally know what to do.
Right.
A lot, you know. I'm not going to be hired from within, so there's going to be a lot of people that don't dig me.
Yep.
You know, I believe in, you know, if you have a corporation, you should hire, you know, position from within.
Yeah, promote. From inside,
yeah, I mean, come on. So I'm going to come in as a marketing director of somebody's deal, and I'm going to have to be there every day.
Yeah,
and you know, when I wasn't doing that at Hot Bike, like I would get up and go up to a place, to a builder shop or there, and I'd do my thing, get my stories, turn them in. So I was like, man, sorry to get back to your question about COVID crossing, I was always like, whatever I'm going to do at my next job, I'm going to want to do it when I want to do it. And that's the only two things. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. It's got to get done, but you know, hire and delegate.
Right.
Even then when it was just me and my partner, Dave, you know? And so the V2 and Visionary name kind of I woke up at literally 3 a.m. He lives in Tennessee. I live in California, and I call him and I keep calling him. I keep calling him. And I'm like, hey man, The name's going to be V2 Visionary. And he didn't even take a breath. He's like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And then I called my graphics guy. I called him the same time. And by 4 a.m., he already had the logo that we checked off.
Awesome.
So, I mean, the design guy and me and Dave, like, all clicked. And I was like, see, this is how it's got to work that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're going to do all these things and we're going to have all this fun. And because my job, even when I was the editor of Hot Bike, my job is everybody else, or my fun is everybody else's job and vice versa.
Sure.
Like when they're out there partying at Sturgis, I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, a lot of people can't equate that. Like, hey, how come you're not, 17 drinks into the night, you know? And we are. And I was like, cause I'm taking photos of all you
doing
fools
my
and
job
doing
right
my
now.
job.
Yeah.
Like, I got to wake up at 5 a.m. and shoot 4 bikes tomorrow.
Right.
So like all of that stuff has kind of molded the company of V2 Visionary into being an entity where it conveys fun, it conveys quality, it conveys, it's definitely bucket list kind of stuff. The bikes I build are bucket list bikes to people.
Yeah.
Yep.
The trips I go on are bucket list type things.
I was telling Matt that the other day. I'm like, this guy's over here, and then all of a sudden you see the post, and
Yeah.
he's like halfway across the country. Like, how's he do this?
The whole COVID thing, my dad, he's older. He's got COPD. He's in a wheelchair. Like, he's the kind of dude that's like, man, you're gonna get this, and I can't go see him right now because I'm gone all the time and I got a quarantine.
Sure.
So I talk to him through the glass or text or, FaceTime or whatever. But before the COVID, Maggie and I got in the V2 Visionary van and drove to Daytona. And we wanted to do that, because that was the first start of our show series. We were supposed to do a 9-stop show series with Harley-Davidson this year, the Performance Bike Show. We're going to do 7 of them by the end of the year, God willing. So that was the first time we went across the country in March.
Okay.
And then from there, we flew to Mama Tried and got there, hung out, and then that night it was canceled.
Uh-huh.
So we hung out with all of our friends and just did Milwaukee.
Right.
And then came back here and just kind of were sitting it out. And I was like, man, this is getting real boring.
Yeah.
And, all the manufacturers are like, yeah, we're really sorry. Like, we're still going to stick with you. Like, Harley are the marketing department are some of the greatest people ever. Like, I talk to my guy there every week. We were always discussing, what's going to happen, what's going on. I was like, look, man, you guys gave me a grip of sponsorship money. Like, I'm not going to just take this money and run. And of course, you're not going to ask for it back because you're not going to get it back. But so let's figure out things we can do together to promote motorcycling in this current climate of the COVID. Yeah. So that's when the COVID crossing started. I was like, look, man, I'm going to find somebody that's gonna partner with me on a bike, a dealership or an entity, and asked around a little bit, and Will Cole from the Cole family at Black Bear Harley-Davidson was kind enough to, work out a deal on a bike with me. And we flew to Virginia and rode back to California. It was part fun run, part showing people that they can still do things during this time.
Yep.
The motorcycle is the perfect thing. It's totally socially distant anyways.
Yeah, I read an article the other day in Cycle World, and I was forwarded to Matt, like the motorcycle industry, including Harley and here at our own dealer, I think they said the sales were up like 29% over last year or something like that. It's crazy. And like you just said, it's naturally socially distant. I mean, we went on a trip to Utah when Matt first brought it up. I was like, I didn't hesitate. I was like, dude, that's a great idea. Let's get out. Let's go. Yeah. It was a quick, burner. We ran up there, cruised around.
That's such a great area, though,
it was
man.
beautiful, man.
I love that area.
That's like been a highlight of my whole year so far. I mean, it's been it was a great trip. But yeah, like you just said, like people are just, go ride, man.
Yeah,
get out there.
People have plenty of time. They're at home, and most people are working from home or they're laid off, so they have time to take a trip. Yeah. They have time to build their bikes. They have time to tweak out on whatever they want, you know, and then, what's better than throwing some cool bolt-on parts on your motorcycle or rebuilding your engine and then actually getting to go ride it because you have a little time.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, that was really good. So, we ended up getting the bike and throwing a Cobra backrest and rack on it. And Maggie and I got on the bike, and we went to the same day we flew in. We ended up going through the driving rain to Georgia, and then hung out with the guys from Dirty Dixie and bolted on a bunch of parts from a bunch of people. I mean, you could check out the Instagram, but like we did Legend suspension, a bunch of Nest stuff, Cobra exhaust. I mean, I can keep going on and on and on. FXR division bars. And we just rode the bike. And when we went through Nashville, a buddy of mine, Kev, he is a tour bus driver for huge people, like Kid Rock and every country star. Like, he drives their tour buses. Of course, all that's belly up right now too. Yeah. So he came by my partner Dave's house in Franklin, Tennessee, and just for a barbecue before we left. And he's like, I'm going to go home and get my stuff. And he jumped on he has the Road Glide Limited Ultra. And he rode that. That bike's beautiful. And then our friend Natalie, who used to work at Troy Lee Designs, she ended up moving out to Tennessee, and then she got laid off of her clothing design job. And she was like, well, I got laid off last night. Super bumming. Yeah. Like, in tears at the house. And Maggie was like, then go home and get your stuff and ride. And she was like, okay. And then finally talked her into it. She walks outside to get on her FXR, and it wouldn't start. So I was like, V-Twin Visionary has a brand new Lowrider S in Dave's garage that we've been working on. So ride that bike. Yeah. So she started riding it, and then we get a little further down, pick up some more people. Nice. Go to Oklahoma. Kent and Lisa from Brad Flags are there. So we stayed at their house. Hung out, went to Colorado, hung out with John Oakes from Four Corners Motorcycle Tour on his 300-acre ranch now, and ended up going to Phoenix and then home. So, I mean, it was a really cool thing. People were coming out, visiting us. We're riding along in New Mexico, Maggie and I, and then this car just pulls up with these huge dudes in it, full shaved heads and beards, like tattoos. I was like, uh-oh.
There we go.
And they roll down the window, start waving and taking pictures with a huge camera. It's the New Mexico Dyna's guy on Instagram.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was like, oh, man. He's like, I figured you'd be right here. Yeah. So, I mean, it was super cool. Like, and for me to be able to show people that daily. Yeah. And then also show them, it's kind of two-sided. We made videos of putting all the parts on that day or that night or whatever. So it fired off on all cylinders. A lot of people aren't doing that. Some people are doing product videos. Some people are doing ride videos, and we're like, let's just mash it all together.
Yeah, it's ride and do parts videos, and that's perfect.
In people's garages and their shops.
Yeah, road test them right away.
Yeah, and that's what's super cool. So I'm still doing a wrap-up video of that before we get into the Sturgis Smash that we're doing, which is a different ride.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like you were talking about before we started recording, like they see Matt's videos and your videos and stuff, and they don't realize how much production goes into just an hour's worth of video. It can be like a whole day or more of like editing and timing things and making sure they work right. And it's a lot.
I mean, I was doing them every night when we stopped. I would do 2 videos, just bang them out. I mean, they're not super high quality or 3 camera jobs like this one, but like it still takes a bit, to put them all together and, record them on the phone, edit them on the phone. I didn't take my laptop, so all that stuff's done on the phone.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, the equipment too, like just when we went to Utah, I would have the crazy thought, hey, let's bring the board and let's do a podcast. No room for it, man. No. We got a drone and we got camera boxes and all this stuff. It's crazy. Like Matt didn't even have room for his clothes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we were fortunate enough because we had a chase truck, because when we left, we were going to go back and get the truck and trailer right after Mama Tried. Back to Daytona. But Dave, my partner, ended up taking it to Tennessee. And then I was like, well, Dave, why don't you just go with us? You can ride the bike that you own that Natalie's riding half the time, and we'll have a chase truck full of stuff, and we can chill and do all the stuff. So that's cool. That actually worked pretty good. And now the van's here where it belongs. Yeah. So we did all the stuff.
Worked out. That's good.
It worked out super good. And
that's awesome.
Now people are really into these rides. So like I said, we're doing the Sturgis Smash ride, which will be anybody's invited to that, which is cool. We're going to meet up at the Collective shop in Phoenix. And then we're going to end up riding to Sturgis, do a little 2 or 3 day ride up to there.
Yeah, that's cool. Since you mentioned it, let's talk about the Collective, man. That's a new venture for you, right?
Oh, yeah. It's my buddy Danny, known as Motor Witch. He is a well-known Harley engine builder. He partial owner of Leading Edge, who does big motor kits, 159-inch, 151-inch. And he hit me up a couple of years ago to open a shop with him. And I said, there's no way possible in the world that I'll ever own a shop.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I mean,
a lot to do.
Well, for me, I really can't own a shop and sell products when I'm reviewing. I'm supposed to be Switzerland and reviewing products.
Yeah.
I can't be like, oh, look on V2 Visionary and here's all these rad products. And then I'm going to be selling these other products that I've never tested. So it was really sticky for me. Yeah. Complete contract. So, I decided that I was going to buy, because at Hot Bike we did a series called Tales from the Dyno, and it was really well received. It did really well. And then once I parted ways with them, I didn't have a dyno.
Right.
So I ended up procuring a dyno and making sure that it was not going to be in California. So the dyno had to be in Phoenix.
Right.
And then, as you know, being a shop in California, there's issues with componentry that's off-road use only, blah, 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 blah. So it's a sticky subject for people to send me stuff to even test in California. Sure. Cams, exhaust, intakes, all that stuff. So I was already 1 foot out the door, California, moving to Arizona. I was 50-50. Maggie and I just got a loft there in downtown, so we'll be there most, like 90% of the time now.
Yeah.
So I pretty much co-opted a space inside the Collective. What the Collective is, in short, is it's Danny Wilson, a guy named Ray Kirshner who worked at Bartell's for 20 years. He got out of, he didn't want to live in Venice anymore.
Sure.
Danny's lived in Phoenix forever. FXR Division and Torch Industries ended up moving into a big spot in the art district of downtown, and they had about 2,200 square feet of a shop that they weren't going to use.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're not really, they're manufacturing. They don't do a lot of, they do complete bike builds, but they don't want to, and they don't need to be doing handlebar jobs all the time. And they make handlebars. That's their number one selling thing. Sure. So they asked Danny if he would want to be the service area of that. Okay. And of course, Danny's not stupid, he said yes. Yeah. And at that same time it happened, the COVIDs were hitting pretty big, and he was the service manager of Buddy Stubbs. They let him go. So he quit, and now he's full-time doing that shop with Ray. And so it's a big thing. Like, Danny is a partner in DLX Manufacturing, who makes brake bones, and they're starting to make a bunch of really cool machine stuff. So DLX is in there, Motor Witch is in there, Leading Edge is in there, FXR Service is in there, and now my stuff's in there. Right. I'll have a podcast studio in there, a photo studio, a video studio. We built this crazy all glass fishbowl around the dyno so I can film and do my stuff in there. So I mean, it was only, the name just came to me one night, like V2 Visionary, like it's Collective, like Collective PHX. Like there's no other way to call it. If you call it a different name, it's a different entity. Right. Yeah. And then it negates all those other brands that are in there. Sure. Yep. So we just did that. So we polished up the floors all crazy, painted everything, and Danny has 6 bikes to build by Sturgis. Like Dan Dreyer from Dixon was like, hey, I want a 40-day build on this bagger. Brought it in, and he's got, he's still, I think he's got 15 151 and 159 motors he has to build by Sturgis. And so he hit the ground running.
He's busy.
He is super busy.
He has an energy drink sponsor or something.
Dude, he drinks those Reigns like crazy. Dude. And, our buddy Lauren comes and helps out, and Lauren's actually his personal trainer. So they go he spends more time with Lauren than anybody. He wakes up in the morning, works out with him, and then works all day with him, and then goes home. So, I mean, the Collective will be something that's pretty cool. Right now, it's just a mess, jam full of bikes, and the doors literally aren't open because they're nailed shut.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't even get in there yet. We don't even have time to put a door on that works.
So no visitors. You can't go there and go in and check it out.
Not yet. Okay. That will all happen during the new dates of the Arizona Bike Week. It'll be open. Okay. So
sounds like to me you need to have a little area where people can come in and buy T-shirts and stuff like
trust
that.
Trust me, there's gonna be a showroom area in the very front of the building adjacent to us, and that's where FXR Division, Torch, and then us will be able to have all of our wares and hard parts and stuff in there too. So it's a pretty crazy shot being able to have that many heavyweights in the industry all together,
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
having
under one roof. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
and
lot
a
of
lot in
talent.
one spot.
and having 2 Harley master mechanics under one roof that are independent now. It's
Yeah.
pretty funny because Danny, like he's so trained. Like he got super mad at me. He's like my brother, so we can get, we can
Joke around.
fist, get almost straight into fisticuffs or be totally fine hugging.
Yeah.
And he kept selling Harley parts. And I'm like, Danny, you know that you don't have to just sell Harley parts. And they're great and they work good, but you can sell a Ness air cleaner now instead of
okay.
a Harley one.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
He's brainwashed.
And guess what? You can make more money doing
Some say
that.
brainwashed, some say well trained.
Yeah, right.
I know the mentality, man. I've been doing this so long. I
That's
can
what I'm
only
saying.
imagine trying to
to break out.
I got all these things I can do now. I don't have to just look at Harley stuff.
Well, because when you buy a Harley part, I'm not saying it Legos on, but I mean, if you buy another manufacturer's fender, compared to a Harley replacement fender, the amount of work it's going to take.
Some assembly required. Yep.
Yeah, it's always a fine balance when Keith and I talk to people about parts. It's like you can give them the Harley part, which we push the majority of the time because of what you said. You got the warranty, you got the fit and finish, the Harley-Davidson. It's R&D'd for that application.
Yep.
But there's things that just you can't get under the bar and shield. Things like bars or exhaust that Harley just doesn't do the same as some of the aftermarket companies.
Sure.
So it's a fine line to kind of balance or
Well,
walk along,
it's difficult when talking to those guys. There's creative guys there, but they're hamstrung by having to follow rules, and they're kind of like they're
Straight
under the
laws,
thumb of law.
Yeah.
And whatever they put out there is getting so heavily scrutinized.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and they got to meet so many criteria and tested and all this other stuff. So
and you got to figure out okay, we have issues here with DOT and we have issues here with the California Air Resources Board, but dude, they have the TUV over there in Europe and the CE approval, which is way more stringent than anything we have in the United States. So if you're trying to hit all those buttons, your part better fit good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You ain't making that in your backyard.
Safe and
Yeah, man.
Very cool. Well, you mentioned about the performance shows that you're doing throughout the country, and I know you're doing one in Sturgis.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. Like, how do you sign up if I'm a guy that has a custom bike? Hey, I want to go into this. What is it, the V-Twin motorcycle?
Yeah, it's V-Twin Visionary Performance Motorcycle Show presented by Harley-Davidson.
All right, perfect. So that's the long form name. So how do I go about getting into one of these shows if I'm interested?
So pretty much you can go on the V-Twin Visionary website or hit us up on @V-Twin Visionary, and it's a super simple process. You don't pre-register. The Sturgis show is free. It's at the Buffalo Chip, August 10th, and you show up. You fill out 3 lines of your name, phone number, and email address, and you park your bike. And I mean, we have tons of great sponsors. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to have great raffles that will benefit charities, as well as getting me gas money to get home. And and I mean, just all the way across. Like last year, we was our first one. I signed a 3-year deal with the Buffalo Chip to do it there. I'm a big Buffalo Chip guy. I like going there. The experience is really good there. The staff's great. Things get handled. So I'm always go there. I always stay there. So when I made this deal with them, I wanted it to be really simple. I didn't want somebody to have to whip out their checkbook or pre-register or this or that. I just wanted them to show up because there's so much going on in Sturgis. Like you barely have time to manage your days, and it's the day after Big Joe's FXR show. And, his is Sunday, mine's Monday, and it's really simple. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I want to keep it that way. Like the competition aspect is enough. We have, best of show, best Softail, best bagger, best Sportster, best, Pull Shock Sportster Pull Shock Softail and M8 Softail. There's a big level difference there.
Yeah.
We have best of models, best of show, best paint, best motor, like all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's just the full series. The one we had in Daytona was huge. Over 100 bikes showed up.
Wow.
Like I said last year, I honestly expected 30 bikes to show up. We had over 100.
Dang.
It was, besides Big Joe's show, it was the other biggest show they've ever had at the Buffalo Chip.
That's
Right.
sweet.
First out of the box, I was very, it kind of kicked the rest of this thing between visionary-wise in gear last year, to tell you the truth.
So
So
in Sturgis, too, you guys are going to debut the Dixon flannel
collab,
collab you've been doing, right?
Yeah.
I know people are excited about that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're big Dixon people here.
I get so many people like, you're only going to have it Sturgis? I was like, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how can you do that to us? I was like, hey, everybody knows somebody's going to be at Sturgis. Give the guy $70 and get one.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can't buy it online, huh?
Nope.
Interesting. I like it. That's cool.
It's going to be
Exclusive.
the super exclusive. Yeah. But
That's
So you
right.
imagine that in the Dixon world, you see someone with that flannel, you're like, dude, you got one of those?
Yeah.
And I mean, there's certain crazy things like the pocket logo. They've never shared their brand with another brand.
Right.
Either like the Snap-on one or the PM one just says that. It doesn't say ours says DFC/VTV.
Oh, okay.
And that's a first. They're completely redesigned flannels now. They've
Yeah.
got a little bit longer arms. The cut's a little more generous. There's a really cool little flap on the inside so you can clean your glasses now.
Oh, wow.
There's a gusset
Nice.
down the back. They're the highest quality ones I've seen. Like Danny's really up in his game over there
Yeah.
with that. And
Yeah, they've been coming out with a lot of new product and stuff, too. They got a lot of cool stuff going
so
on.
much stuff. All their Vixen
Yeah.
stuff for women is really cool.
Yeah.
So I was really excited. Like him and I talked about doing a flannel back in the hot bike days, and I wanted to do kind of a crazy thing that nobody did, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, that's dumb," and that's all he said. And I mean, that guy's like my little brother. Like
Yeah,
I've known
yeah.
the dude for forever, ever. And that's all he said. And then one day I was like, "Hey, man, I want to do V2 and Visionary flannel." He's like, "Tell me what you want."
Yeah.
And then so we've been working on it for about 8 months,
cool.
and it will be debuted, and I'm sure they will sell out. So
Yeah,
we're
that's
not going to
awesome.
have I mean, as far as even Dixon goes, our limited edition is going to be a lot less than their normal limited edition. So.
Yeah. Whatever collaborations you got going on.
Oh man, I mean, pretty much doing stuff with a lot of Harley dealers now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm building bikes with people like, Matt, do you want to talk about the bike we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have a FLHTP, right? Or is it's the FLHP?
It's FLHP.
P.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Road King,
Yeah,
the
Road
police
King.
Road King. Okay. Yeah. So, we got a bike coming from the motor company here that is for Jeff here. And, I was asking him before we started the podcast and recording, what his plans were and if that's information he can divulge or if it's some secret project. So yeah, talk about that for a minute.
No, definitely. It's definitely open. It's a police bike. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that Danny Wilson and I built the M8 FXR, which
That was dope,
which is a
by
P.
the way.
Yeah,
That's by
thing's
far my
rad.
favorite bike. You guys, I was actually in preparation for this. I was looking at some of your work, and I came across that M8 FXRP build
Yeah.
again. I was like, oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
thing is so sick.
It's
Where is
cool.
that bike? by
That
the way?
bike was actually there's a guy in Washington that gave me and Danny. Danny was my partner on the bike. That he gave me an offer we couldn't refuse.
Okay.
Like
so you
there's
sold
no way in a million years I was going to turn down this amount of money for that bike. And Danny's
Yeah.
like, we'd be stupid not to. Because I hit Danny up and I was like, look, man, like you put a lot of it in there. And then Justin from Torch Industries did the frame. And I was like, hey, man, he's like, Justin's really dry guy. He's like, I don't give a what you do with it. And so I was like,
Build
okay.
another
So,
one, right?
right. And so like we did it. And then it happened. And we ended up going up to Tony Tucker's place and met the guy at Tucker Speed, and they took off on it. And it's actually back at the shop now. The guy wants a different motor put in it and a couple other little changes made to it. So it actually rolled into the shop the collective the other day while I was there, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I forgot how badass this bike really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're gonna do. I'm a big cop bike guy. I've had Defenders and legit FXRPs and that bike. So we're gonna take this bike and make it kind of a variation. A lot of people are putting the FXRP fairings on baggers now, so it will have that treatment. It'll have Brock's wheels. I'm still pushing the motor company for a 131 for it. Fingers crossed. PM brakes, race tech suspension. Oh man, like just so much cool stuff. Bunch of alloy art stuff. A Brock swing arm.
So kind of a performance bagger style
It'll be crazy performance bagger build.
Yeah.
So
Dope.
it'll be lighter and for me the criteria of a performance bagger because that word is completely overused now.
It is for sure.
Is it's got to be lighter, faster, and brakes and stop better.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do any of those, then it's not a performance bagger. It has to have all three of those things.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to start using that criteria from now on.
We're actually Danny and I have figured out a matrix where we'll be able to go and test bikes. Anybody who thinks they have a performance bagger can come to Phoenix and we'll put it through the same paces. It's a dyno.
And get like a certification. This has been Collective certified performance bagger.
This is a real performance bagger.
V-twin Visionary certified.
You cannot call this a performance bagger.
The dyno and the skid pad, and we just bought like super expensive weighing system for motorcycles. I didn't know they cost that much. They had like 3 of them at Cycle World when I worked over there. I was like, dang, should have bought one at discount.
Yeah.
And so we were going to weigh the bikes, put them on the dyno, get the torque and horsepower, and then put it on the skid pad. So that's kind of the whole thing for next year is bring your bike.
It would be cool. I just not thought of it, and it's probably not even possible. But if it was, it'd be awesome because we the motor company sends us the test bikes for our LA County Sheriff's Office, so we deliver them out there and pick them up. We don't do much with their testing, but if we could get their police bike and go take it out to their testing and test it up against their bikes that are out there.
Test it up against a real,
that'd be awesome. Yeah.
That would be great, man. And
you should set a benchmark though. Like, hey, it's got to, this is what our bike weighs. Yep. This is the power it puts out, and this is, I guess, how quickly it stops. And so people can kind of like, okay, this is my benchmark against Jeff Holt's bike.
We're gonna have on the dyno. There'll be a magnet board, and it's going to be called the Tower of Power.
Hall of Fame. I
love it.
and there we'll have whose ever bike has the most horsepower.
Yeah.
So you can come in, pay your money to have the bike dynoed, and be somewhere on the list. And
that's rad, dude.
Yeah. So we're going to be doing that as well, and then we'll have that matrix up as well to shop of what bikes are really done as a performance bike, and not just something with a shiny exhaust and an upside down fork on it.
Yeah,
sure.
So.
Well, don't make fun of our bikes, okay? When we roll out our performance baggers, okay?
I love them all, man.
You gotta have a California category because we're limited.
True, we should.
Little asterisk there.
This one state.
Yeah.
This is the 49 state bikes, and here's the California bikes.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, we do have I don't know if you've seen, we have the VTV Mega Motor Bagger that we've done.
I don't know if I've seen that.
That bike is, it has the prototype 159 leading edge motor in it.
Dang. Is that the one with the red carbon fiber?
Yeah, we just did the stuff with the
I
Curtis
saw
Hoffman
that.
carbon fiber and some other stuff. That bike we're lightening that bike up any which way we can. Titanium hardware.
That thing's gonna be sick.
Doing super huge brakes from a company I've never even heard of before in Europe that's sending us some brakes. I was like, I've never even heard of you.
Yeah.
Okay, send them. We'll see how they work.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So, that's got a bunch of alloy art stuff on it and a Brock swing arm. So we'll probably end up getting some Brock's wheels for it. And that bike will most likely be the benchmark because it's already pushing 180-something horsepower and over 200 torque.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Non-turbo also.
Non-turbo pump gas.
Wow.
So
that's
insane. Wild.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the bike that you're getting from Harley. Like, how do you get to a place where you get they're just at this point they're hooking you up with that bike, and now we talked about Born Free that you're going to do. Yeah. What are some other things you're going to do with that bike?
Yeah, with that bike, that one I forgot what the hell we're going to call it. It's the RKRP, Road King RP.
Okay.
So that bike the reason it's taking so long is I picked a Houston police paint scheme, which is black and white, but it has a gray pinstripe that breaks it up. Yep. And Harley was like, Houston hasn't ordered a police bike from us for 3 years. We do not have that bike.
Yeah. So
I was back at the bus before the COVIDs, and I was supposed to get that bike by Daytona. So now it's showing up here this month. And I mean, pretty much the deal being is when I made a deal with Harley to be the sponsor of the show series, they also were very interested in our Smoky Mountain tour, which we've done 2 years now. That takes place in Maryville, Tennessee, at a place called The Shed, which is adjacent to Smoky Mountain Harley-Davidson. And it's 4 days of riding in some of the best places ever. All Tail of the Dragon, Blue Ridge Parkway, Skyline. I can keep going. Right outside the back door. Yeah. So we do that there. And so they wanted to be the presenting sponsor of both. And I was like, well, one costs this much, the other one costs this much. And they were like, ooh. And I'm like, well, one costs this much, and how about a bike? And they were like, okay, no problem. So that was that's how the RKRP came together.
Okay.
And they were actually not very happy that I ordered another cop bike because I've built a lot of cop bikes. And they're like, well, is it going to look just like the one with the M8 in it? And I was like, no, man, it'll be totally different. So we'll see. And then,
well, one's a Softail, right, and one's on the touring chassis, so there's a pretty big difference.
Trust
right
me,
there.
it doesn't really matter, man. Okay. Like, we're just doing everything, and we'll have a bunch of fun with it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I should say, you had an FXR frame, right, that you put in Milwaukee-Eight.
Yeah, FXR.
Okay, so it was an FXR frame,
yeah.
not a Softail, and then a touring frame.
I knew what you were making, dude. They're two whole different bikes, man. And I'll tell you, man, like that FXR, we did so much work to it that it was barely an FXR frame anymore.
Oh, I'm sure.
And, we had to do so much. I weep. Justin did so much cutting and manufacturing, and his brother Joe and him on it, that there was not much left.
Yeah, right? Even to put a twin cam in one of those is like a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Milwaukee-Eight's got to be just
it's
ridiculous.
A wholly different thing.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's done one since. Everybody keeps taking photos on Instagram of them being made, and there's still not one on the road. So that'll tell you. Yeah. And we built that bike 2 years ago.
It's a process of working through all the little hiccups and things you run into. Yeah. You don't realize it until you get there, and you're like, oh, man, I got to move this. I got to move that.
Correct. Yeah. And, I mean, that's just the thing. And I mean, the Milwaukee-Eight baggers for me, I anybody that knows me knows I was never a fan of baggers. Like, the last one I bought was a 2011 Road Glide, and I hated the thing. Mm-hmm. And, I ride them every year. Harley lets me ride them. And I go to Fox and do their suspension camp and everybody else. And I still was like, ugh. Twin cam baggers, like, no, man, just not my thing. They're heavy, they blah, blah, blah. And then, man, Milwaukee-Eight baggers, they are badass.
Different.
That's
different beast.
Yeah, it's funny the number of people that I get that come in that buy one of these Milwaukee-Eight baggers that ride them. It's like, wow, I expected it to handle good, but like I have fun up in the canes with these things, and they handle really well. They hold their weight really well, and the power to weight ratio is better now. So it's really like an all around bike. I mean, I personally ride a Street Glide, and I love it. So.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like we were, back in the day when I worked at Baggers in like 06, 07, man, like we would build a Road Glide and people were like, man, that thing's hideous. How come you can build a Street Glide? Those things are horrible. Now, like everybody in the world has a Road Glide. And I was like, when I got that COVID bike, I was like, it's got to have a Batwing. Like I need to be opposite everybody. And that bike is so impressive. I mean, it's the barest bones bagger. I mean, what does that thing retail? Like
19 grand.
Yeah. Like, come on. Yeah. For real. And I wear a helmet with a comm system, so I'm never worried about the stereo. Yeah. And I've got an iPhone, so I don't worry about any of the infotainment. Like,
right.
And it's way lighter. And I mean, that bike is super fun.
Yeah.
And I really, I was a gigantic proponent of the Softail when it came out to the point where I actually got death threats from Dyna people. And FXR people.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're kind of like a big-time Dyna FXR guy.
Oh, yeah. I still own, I have 5 Dynas and 3 FXRs.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're obviously a huge voice among the people in kind of the Dyna Nation, if you want to call it that. And, I still remember, after the 2018 model year announcement, when there was no more Dyna, like, I mean, and talk about it from your perspective. Like, what happened when that whole thing went down and the Dyna was dead?
It was crazy. I mean, like, I was privy to that happening before it happened. Okay. And I'm sworn to secrecy about a bunch of stuff, like even today. But like, I knew it was going to happen. I knew there was going to be some backlash. But I mean, honestly, I think the motor company went about it completely wrong.
Yeah.
They did it all in one fell swoop, and they called it, everybody in the world knew that the Softail, pull shock Softail, was the worst handling bike ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looked cool, and it was great for the time it was alive. But then to be able to I think people at Harley were like, wouldn't it be great if we just wrapped all these things into one thing and we don't have to, have a care in the world? We're going to have baggers, Sportsters, and this new, and the Softail, and it'll be easier for us. But then to be able to like kill the Dyna line and then shove all those names in there and then still call it a Softail, Like that's like 3 strikes and you're out. You know, they should have called it like Project X or had a different name and then pulled those names.
I said the same thing when they came out with it at the show. When Matt and I were sitting there, I'm like, why wouldn't they should have renamed it a new category? Like it's not a Dyna, it's not a Softail. Traditionally, it's a whatever you want to call it, but name it something else. Like set it aside.
They really should have leaked a photo of just that frame, because when I, months before it came out, they just had the photo of the frame with the pull shock and then the front end, and that thing looked badass. I was like, oh man. And then just say, hey, this is what's coming new.
Right.
And then you could say, hey, this bike, hey, due to, the amount of people loving this new style, we're going to kill the Dyna. And this is why. And then Harley should have really just took that thing on the road as a complete bike and as a frame in a glass case in the back of a truck and just went to every dealership so you could look at it. But to like blindly do that to brand enthusiasts, that was bad news, man. The marketing company screwed the pooch on that, but I mean, I got to ride those bikes weeks before most other magazine editors or anybody else did. And I wasn't hot on it. Like, I just spent, every Dyna I have has $10,000 worth of suspension on it.
Yeah.
And they still wobble.
Right.
And 80 miles an hour on those sweepers, man. You can start feeling that ass come loose. Mm-hmm. And I got on that bike. The first one that I got on was a lowrider. And, of course, the handlebars were janky because Harley has weird ergonomics on their handlebars. Yeah. And I'm a BMX guy, so I'm used to having flat, straight bars, higher than normal. T-bar guy. But as soon as I got on that bike, I took it up Angeles Crest Highway, man, and I was like, I'm giving this thing all it's got. I mean, I'm no track day guy. Yeah. I'm not, I'm a fat Harley rider. And
but you know how to ride. You've thrown your leg over 1 or 2 bikes.
Right. And I was like, oh my God. This is honestly the best handling stock bike I've ever ridden that has a V-twin in it. Like by far. I've got I've had my FXR. I have an FXR that has 17,000 original miles on it. Like it's perfectly stock.
Sure.
Like, and it blew that thing away. And I was like, oh man. And it blew away I rode my Dyna there that day. Yeah. And I rode my 2015 and it had full Race Tech shocks, full Race Tech front end built for me.
Yeah.
And I rode that thing home and I was like, man, that stock bike, I might as well just kick this thing over. And then I honestly reported on it, and people they went apeshit online. They went apeshit.
Yeah, we were getting all the calls too, and I told everyone the same thing you're saying right now, which is like, hey, come ride this, come ride that before you judge what it is or isn't. Come ride, bring your Dyna in. You'll be wanting to buy one of these when you leave. And everyone that's done it has been like, dude, you're right. Like, this bike is amazing compared to what my bike was when I got it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it's crazy even this day and age. Like the lowrider I have, the 19 lowrider that I have, the silver bike, the original project we have, that bike is decked out. It's got a 125-inch motor in it. It's got 147 foot-pounds of torque. Yeah. Brox wheels, full suspension on it. It's got GP in the front and Russ Wernemont in the back. I rode that bike last year at the tour, and I was keeping up with dudes that I would have never kept up with, like Rusty from D&D. That guy rides the piss out of his bikes, and Brian from TPJ, and Scott, the guy that owns the dealership, who knows every inch of all those roads and has this crazy Road King that he rides. And that bike, I gave that bike everything I could give it, and it was unbelievable on all that stuff, man.
It's if you can just, I told people, if you can just get over the name, and I think going back to the whole Softail name, I think Harley just had so much invested in the Softail name, they didn't want to give up all that brand, I guess, equity that they've built over the years. And I'm not saying that's the right or wrong choice. I think I agree with you guys where they probably should have called it something else and just kind of swallowed their pride and maybe got rid of the Softail name. But I told people, if you can get over the name and the fact that you don't call it a Dyna anymore, you can get over the fact that there's no 2 external shocks on the bike anymore. The bike rides better, handles better, you have better power to weight ratio, and the suspension is far more comfortable and performs better. And if you can just get over the name, you're getting a far superior product.
Oh my God. It's lighter, stiffer.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Like they put a lot of work into that, Like,
that was a long time coming. Yeah, they did a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then coupled with that motor.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. The Milwaukee-Eight is amazing. Yeah, it had some issues with oiling in the beginning, first year. But, I mean, come on, man.
Twin Cam's had issues the first few years, too.
Yeah.
Pretty much every motor
comes
out. They test as much as they can, but until they get it in the hands of the public and people start tearing it up.
Oh, I know. And, with leading edge, they all those bikes, the big ones have balanced cranks.
Yeah.
And they take all the balancers out of there, the two that are in the Softail one and the one in there. And that thing, it purrs like a kitten, man. The 151 that I had in the FXR, that thing, if you were to ride like a normal Milwaukee-Eight bagger, you don't even feel the motor. Yeah. That bike felt like a Evo,
right?
That's rad.
Like a badass worked Evo. Like that thing was shaking in the motor,
like crazy, yeah.
And
a lot of people like that, but some people don't like that.
I don't even like that anymore.
Yeah,
I'm getting old.
It's interesting to hear that from you because there's so many people. I mean, I talk to a lot of people online and just hear a lot of the chatter and stuff like that. And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the Milwaukee-Eight, it's a Japanese motor now, and it's not even a Harley motor." And it's such a fine line for Harley to try to walk on.
No matter what they do, they're damned.
Pretty much, yeah. You can't please everybody, that's for sure.
They're stuck in the 50s. All their bikes look like that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they come out with something new like the Livewire. Oh, they're just pandering to Tesla people. Or
Well said, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they literally can't do anything right.
Yeah,
it's a wonder that, I mean, you've got to have really thick skin to be working over there.
Yeah.
Or even own a dealership like yourself, that's, I mean, Laidlaw's is a legendary dealership, generations of people work here, and like it's really cool. But man, throughout the years, like to be able to say, we've had Evos when they're brand new on here.
Yeah.
It was lined up, leaking Evos
That's right.
on the showroom floor.
100%. Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just, you're damned being a Harley enthusiast or working in the industry. Like the first thing you post anything, somebody's going to hate it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a part here, a part there. Like I just push the button on stuff, man, and just wait. Yeah. Which way is this going to go?
Right. Yeah. No doubt. So I had a question for you. So
sure.
we're in the middle of we're kind of doing a series on performance upgrades from a Harley perspective. We covered stage one's last podcast, which hasn't published yet, but it's coming out soon. So being from the Harley / aftermarket kind of wide open door world, what are your go-to performance upgrades for say a regular guy Milwaukee-Eight street bike? Going to be maybe a daily rider or going to be a weekend rider or whatever, but what do you recommend, or what do you like to see on your bikes like that?
I mean, honestly, it's always the big five, intake, exhaust, seat, handlebars, grips. Those are the things that I think everybody's going to change performance wise or not. And then after that, bigger motor. Once you're used to how the bike functions with either your 114 or your 107 in it, bigger motor enhancements and brakes, depending on whichever order you want to do.
Sure.
I mean, I always say if you're gonna have a bigger motor, you gotta have bigger brakes. I honestly think on the Softails, the rear brake doesn't work very well.
Right.
That company DLX, they made a little adjustable brake bone so you can adjust the fulcrum of the brake pedal.
Yeah,
it's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And it works. I have one on my bike, but the front brake works great. Like you don't need a dual disc. You only want it for looks.
Yeah.
Like, all the bikes that have single discs on them, that new Brembo caliper that came out with that Softail works amazingly, singularly. Yeah. A lot of people just want the dual look. Yeah. It's funny because I ended up on my silver bike, I ended up putting Behringers on it and running it with a single bore master cylinder.
Okay.
And everybody's like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Even, everybody, Harley guys, I put it on there, man. It does. You can almost put, when the bike's stationary, there's so much modulation, like a sport bike. Yeah. You can almost put the lever to the bar. But if you tried that when the bike was moving, it would flip you over.
Sure.
Like it's crazy. Yeah. So I tell people, Interesting. So, I mean, being able to do that, I definitely would say If you're going to go bigger motor, you got to go bigger brakes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same theory that I've subscribed to forever. Like, if it doesn't make the bike go faster, stop faster, it's like got no it's got no purpose.
Yeah, or at least
no purpose on it.
Comfortableness, having a nice seat that is either made for you or by, one of our SoCal favorites, whether it's Saddleman or LaPera, either one of those.
The rider interface things are important. Seat, bars, grips.
I'm really bad about bars and grips. Like, FXR Torch, he knows how to make them right. Biltwell's bends are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Jim and Imes has really good bends. A lot of other people just don't get it. Like, even their T-bars are like buckhorns. Like, come on, man. Like, flatten that out. And then grip diameter.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Harley guys like huge grips.
Mm-hmm.
I got little monkey paws. Like, look at these things. Like, I got little fingers and a gigantic palm.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And I'm used to riding BMX bikes with 7/8 grips.
Right.
So all my grips have to be really small. I like stock grips that I don't modify would be like the Arlen Ness grips, the super tiny ones, or the Harley ones that come on the Sportsters that are tiny.
Yeah, reduced
diameter. But my favorite grip is I take they're going to hate me for even saying this. I take a Biltwell Alumicore grip and I machine the front flange down, cut the padding, cut the rubber off of it, and then put screws or put nice bolts in the ends, and it feels like a 7/8 grip.
Okay.
But it's just a piece of aluminum that's knurled.
Sure.
So a lot of people don't find that comfortable. Man, I've ridden the bike to Sturgis twice and might never get hand issues with it at all.
Yeah.
But that grip is like super tiny. Yeah. So Speed Merchant grips, if you have dual throttle cables are great for me. I keep begging them to make throttle by wire versions, so maybe someday they'll heed thy word. But other than that, like, for me, fit is definitely the contact points of the bike, even with pegs or mini boards. I'm a peg guy because I like rocking my foot.
Sure.
So mini boards don't really allow that.
Yeah, you can't move your foot around too much on those. Yeah, I agree. Cool.
Question for you. I've been trying to kind of ask you about what trends you see right now that are like really hot, and where do you think, like, in future trends, like looking ahead, like right now, I personally kind of feel like the performance bagger, as much as that gets thrown around a lot, and some are more performance than others, that's kind of a trend right now that we're in, that I'm seeing. And, maybe we're the tail end, maybe we're right in the middle of the kind of the Dyna, the club scene, the club style Dyna or the club style Softail. I feel like those are kind of some trends that we're in right now. What are your feelings about current trends? And because, you're so involved in the custom bike world, and maybe some future trends that you see just emerging right now. What are those trends?
I think really, to say the first thing is horsepower never goes out of style, So, sure. Performance stuff has seemed to always be like, whether it's like a Kenny Boyce FXR from the 90s that was, kind of slammed, but it had a big motor in it, or like all the Ron Sims bikes that had, crazy big motors, but they didn't look like performance bikes. That's always been underlying. It's just now there's kind of more of a moto aspect to performance stuff, whether it's every peg looks like a MX peg, or a bunch of anodized stuff which came from BMX, or even mountain biking and dirt biking, different color stuff like that. I think it's the big thing currently, and I think that will keep going, because even like John Shope's starting to make cool stuff for performance stuff, making good covers where you can run T-bars and not have to hack up your stuff that looks good. Bare Knuckle Paul's doing a bunch of performance stuff, a ton of people, even, Flow Motorsports, things like that. So, like, I think it's really going to be kind of what we discussed earlier, where, this matrix thing where super true performance is going to be a bigger factor that goes across the country. Like right now it seems to be a California thing, an Arizona thing, some guys on the East Coast, kind of like how, it's Big Wheel Bagger started the same way, and Fat Tire Chopper started the same way, and then the middle of the country will get that in years to come.
Yep.
So I think that's not going to cool off. I see a lot of kids riding Sportster still, which is super cool. Like, it's a good entry level bike.
Totally.
I think that's going to heat up. I think definitely women riding is going to heat up even more. That's been, I think it's kind of been I probably shouldn't say this either, but I think it's been kind of pushed. It's not been like a thing.
I would agree with that.
I think that a lot of people have been pushing it. Now it's happening.
Happening naturally.
Naturally happening. It's naturally occurring now, which is good. I always love that, man. Like, I've got like girls that I ride with all the time, like Natalie Kleiner I was talking about earlier. Like, she's somebody I ride with all the time, like Savannah Mouse and the motorcycles. Ride with her, you know, like lots of people I ride with, and I'm not even like, oh, I'm riding with a girl. Like before, it would be like it's somebody's wife or your girlfriend that you got a bike, and now it's like they're just there and they hang out, and you know, it's no big deal. Part of the crew, and you know, that's also kind of changed too. You know, you mind what you say. You know, I think you actually become a better person. Probably, you know what I'm saying? You're not talking and saying things, you know. So I mean, it kind of all evolves, and as well as, I don't know what you want to call it, urban riders or this or that, people of color riders. That's definitely here at Laidlaw, as you guys know, and it's been that way forever. Because you're in LA.
Yeah, totally.
You get Hispanic people, you get African American people, you get Asian people, you get people from everywhere. But that's not the case in a lot of other states.
Great point. Yeah.
So I think that's really catching on.
Yeah.
And I like seeing that. You know, I just want more people riding motorcycles. I don't care if they're orange and pink polka dotted from outer space, man. You buy a Harley and ride it.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you know, all in all, I think the performance thing's going to stick around for a while. Yeah. Because it suits itself to every model that Harley makes, and Indian as well. Yeah. And I think that is really going to be something solid. And then, you know, I kind of like these Sportsters that these kids are building that are wacky, you know, like they just take the heat shields, or they take the exhaust, they buy a brand new bike, they put struts on it so the suspension doesn't work.
No suspension.
They take the muffler off and they wrap the header pipe.
Yeah.
And they put some janky bars and like wrap the grips with the same thing they wrap the pipes with, which isn't pipe wrap, either one.
Right.
I mean, I kind of like that.
They want to take it off road.
Right.
You know, a lot of
tank lift, you know, ignition relocation, coil relocation.
Some knobby tires or something.
And I mean, that's, you know, like the old curmudgeon-y dudes that look at us with our performance bikes. We look at those kids like they look at us.
Right.
You know, as long as you're doing something wacky and weird bikes, you know, I'm down with it. As long as, you know, as long as you're riding a motorcycle, man.
There's a lot of cool products out there too. Like I see a lot of crossover stuff. Like I've seen a trend with like Baja Designs lights now. Yeah. Everyone, because they're the best performing LED around. They're expensive.
I love that trend, by the way.
But yeah, people are building brackets for them and figuring out how to wire them into their bikes and doing all these things. And that, like, I see a lot more of that going on now too. Yeah. Like a lot of people are repurposing things that weren't necessarily built for Harley use to their really Harleys. Cool, you know, it's cool,
dude. You know, and it's funny. In 2013, I built that FXR with Chip at San Diego Customs. It was the hot bike tour bike, and I had a guy glass in the vent fairings on the P fairing, and I called Baja Designs and I was like, "Hey, I want to get your lights." They had these lights that are perfect. They're like 3 inches by 2 inches. And he's like, "Well, what application is it for?" I was like, "It's going on a Harley." Yeah. And he's like, "Hold, please." Yeah. And then some other guy gets on the phone. He's like, "Where are you putting this on a Harley?" And I was like, "They're Harleys. They have these fairings and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, just silence on the other the phone. He's like, "Well, what color do you want?"
Yeah.
And so I ended up just getting them and putting them in, and like they fit perfect. They look super cool, but man, it was so funny. Like the guy's just like, "Hold, please."
Their stuff's really high quality, but yeah, I've already experienced it with them because we're doing a project now with a customer that's doing dual LP6.
Yeah.
Huge headlights, and they put out like 10,000.
Oh, they're crazy.
Candle power or whatever they are. Like, I don't remember. But
off-road use only.
Yeah. So there's a rumor going around that Baja Designs has this wiring harness that allows you to like run them dim in certain spots on the street.
They do.
But I called them. They were like totally like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "What do you know what I'm talking about? Everyone's talking about this thing, but you don't know what I'm talking about."
Yeah, they had it because I had it on that FXR.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Was that orange one? Kind of orange?
Yeah, it was the one that Schultz painted.
Yeah. That was badass, man.
Thank you.
I think it had like the FXRT fairing on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that bike. That was cool.
So, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. People are innovating.
Yeah. I mean, might want to check Clearwater Lights out too, because they build a lot of cool stuff.
They're actually really cool people. We did Nancy Delgado.
He knows his stuff, man.
Yeah, he does. we had an issue with, kind of wiring in their dimmer switch, and got them on the phone, and they were able to figure it out real quick. It happened to be an issue with the little harness that they make, but they were actually, their customer service is amazing.
Oh, it's amazing.
He overnighted me the part, and we had it on the road the very next day.
Yeah, Clearwater's good.
But yeah, they're a great company. Good people too. Yeah, really good people. Yeah.
There's so many cool little industry guys out there that a lot of people don't know of that are making super cool stuff. Like Butch Green at Green Brothers with his shift linkages and his axle kits. And I mean, you can think of 15 guys like that. Like Steve at Speed Kings coming out with his own part line now. Jim at Imes doing all his own welding in house and building all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, luckily they got like guys like you out there, mainly you, showing off their product, because they're what they do is make things really well. Yeah. But they don't have the in-house marketing, push and advertising that they really need, because people don't like little things like that, like detail things. People don't realize how much better it can that part can make their riding experience.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Until they have someone like you tell them like, hey, check this out, go ride this bike for a minute, and I changed this linkage part.
And just it properly.
Yeah, just the adjustability of like the brake pedal is a huge one that Harley
they missed the boat on that one. Yeah.
But yeah, you do that, and then someone's like, "Oh, that brake works so much better." I never realize it. But my point is, like, luckily they have people out there like yourself talking about these things. Otherwise, no one would ever know that they took out a little ad in Thunder Press or wherever, and it didn't. They don't understand why they don't get the sales that they thought they would, because their product is really great.
Definitely.
But no one knows about it.
Yeah, and I mean that's what's also been great about these rides, because it doesn't work out this way, but we're actually doing a third ride, which I'll discuss after this. Like, so for the COVID ride, it was just like, hey, do you want to be part of this deal? Yes, of course, it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but it's not a huge amount of money, and we're going to be featuring your products. It's pretty much put gas in our tanks and food in our bellies and hotels. We broke even on that. And then the Sturgis one will break even on too. And then the third one will be California crossing. We're going to start San Diego and go to Oregon. Going to go to couple different shops, meet everybody along the way. Whoever wants to join up. Doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. We'll be stopping at Dream Rides, John Jessup's shop. He's a good friend of mine and a great bike builder. A couple other people along the way, and have some builders join us. But then that kind of deal is where you get to showcase this. Yeah. Like I used this brake part on here. I use this, and I'm not doing it for the dough. Like half the people didn't, they're not paying thousands of dollars to have their bikes featured. I was like, hey, I really want to use your part on this bike. Sure. Can we do so? Yeah. So, the Sturgis Smash bike I'm getting here, right? From you, the Softail.
I don't know.
The one I'm buying tomorrow.
Okay, the Street Pop. Okay,
the Street Pop.
I didn't realize that's what it was for.
Yeah, that's the bike for Sturgis.
Oh, right.
Sturgis
on.
Smash. So
very cool.
Sorry, duh. That just popped in my mind.
We're going to be test riding that here pretty soon.
Yeah, so we'll be joining forces on that bike.
Right on.
Pretty cool. And yeah, definitely look out for that, because it'll be all over the interwebs.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
On. Yeah.
If you guys haven't followed Jeff yet, I'm going to be linking all of his social media links up here in the corner there and in the description as well. So be sure to follow. I mean, if you're in the V-Twin world, like, you've probably already heard of him, but if you haven't, make sure you follow him. I mean, all the things that he's talked about already, he's really involved with other aftermarket companies and really showcasing other stuff, which kind of a comment that I like to bring up when we talk about aftermarket parts. Part of the value, I feel like, of a Harley-Davidson is that you're not just constrained to what Harley offers, and Harley offers a lot for an OEM manufacturer, but you have all these people making parts for this bike, that you have this whole array of choices to choose from. And so I think that it builds the value of Harley-Davidson or any other make a motorcycle when you have a lot of people making parts for that bike. So I think it's great that you showcase this stuff and do such a good job at it, and someone with the experience that you have, does it, because it's rad. I mean, I learn new stuff and I see new stuff on your channel and your media outlets all the time. So
yeah, I mean, that's really what I've concentrated on doing is componentry, and and definitely it's not only showcasing made in America items, but I try to definitely showcase the little guys and the made in America stuff more than other stuff, just because we all want those guys to succeed. Instead of some giant conglomerate from Europe or Asia, you know what I mean? Right. That just kind of does stuff. So
yeah, by nature, a lot of those guys are excelling right now because they get their raw material, domestically, and getting raw material from overseas right now ain't happening.
Nope.
So all the companies that we deal with that are made in the USA and source their material here are actually doing well right now. Yeah, they can't make stuff fast enough because the other guys that are making stuff overseas, they can't even get their product out.
Oh, I agree.
It's actually been really
it's
great.
beneficial to them and us.
Yeah,
I agree, man. So. This whole industry it's kind of funny because you hear people like, well, why doesn't Harley make T-bars from the factory? And why doesn't Harley do this from the factory? And there's somebody somewhere at the factory going, well, we should leave a little room for the aftermarket so they support us and we support them. Like, it's a symbiotic relationship that doesn't really happen in any other industry like this. GM doesn't do that. GM doesn't do that. Ford doesn't do that. Like.
Yeah, we've actually, like we were talking about earlier, we talked to them at the dealer show, about that because they came out with their, kind of semi T-bar, little bit higher riser for the Lowrider S. And they were constrained by what they were calling visual lines. Yeah. So being able to use the mirrors and being able to see over your hands.
Then explain that freaking shark nose fairing that you can't see over.
Dude, I have that same question all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
That thing is the worst. It looks good, but it's the worst design thing, man. Like, are you kidding me? You can't see anything. You could have a dog and a small child in front of your bike and you still couldn't see it.
Truth. Yeah, truth.
Well, unless you're 6'6" like me, and you can see you pretty much right now.
No, I'm 5'10" on a good day.
Yeah, Matt, I got to tell you a story about how tall Matt is. We were riding through Utah, and it was kind of like dark. I think it was getting dark, and we were on a kind of a long stretch, and so he's standing up on his floorboards. I'm in the back of the pack. He's standing up on his floorboards, but he's so tall. I was like, is he standing on his tank? Like,
I think I was standing on
the Indian Larry.
Yeah.
We'll just say I was standing up on that tank. I don't have
tank
the ability.
surfing? That's what I looked at. I forget who was riding next to me. I was like, is he tank surfing? What's he doing?
That's so awesome.
I wish I had the ability to do that. But
can you slam dunk a basketball?
Yeah, when I was younger, yes. I'm 39 now, almost 40, and I just don't have the hops I used to have.
Something I always wanted to do, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah, never could either.
Playing basketball growing up, I could
not even with a
dunk.
boost.
Yeah, I can put you on my shoulders, Keith.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, we're going to wrap it up now, guys. Yeah, thanks again, Jeff, for coming out here. It's been a pleasure talking to you,
Definitely,
man. You never cease to amaze me, and, it turned out better than I thought it would.
Have me back anytime.
Okay, well, we'll take you up on that, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, again, if you guys don't follow Jeff Holt, V-Twin Visionaries and all of his other social media, I'm going to link it in the description. Make sure you follow him and check out, all these awesome shows that he has coming up.
High quality daily content this guy puts out.
All the time, daily. And the rides he's putting on, the show he has coming in Sturgis, and everything else. Make sure you follow him and check out his stuff. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Take care. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Later.
Thanks.